Hey guys, Jim here. Welcome in once again. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Sparrow Knife Company Strix. These are around $350 or somewhere in that range, very, very closely. And Greg Schaub is the owner, designer, and maker of the knives by Sparrow Knife Company. This version, however, is the production version made by Bestech. So if you can't afford the full custom Strix, or you simply can't justify the wait period to have a custom knife made by anyone, then you're probably best served by hopping onto one of the production offerings, because it's going to be a lot less expensive. The weight, I'm sure, is considerably less because you're just going to be buying during a drop. It's not even a pre-order. I believe there was a pre-order for this run a few months ago, but that doesn't apply now as of the time that I'm doing this video. The Strix has been a huge success for Greg, and one of the most talked about knives of 2023 into 2024. Between reviews and collector excitement all over the knife groups and Facebook, it's a name that most people come to recognize by now. So I'm finally one of the cool kids that gets to talk about it. The blade steel on this is going to be Magna Cut. Greg decided that he didn't want a bunch of billboarding all over the blade, so it's not marked with the Magna Cut name. But all the sales listings will be clear, whether it's the drop from Sparrow Knife Company or one of their dealers, so all of the buyers will know what they're getting. Now, as you can see on this card, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in real quick here so you can get a better look. Each version is going to be individually numbered with a limited edition number. And none of these knives will be manufactured in the same way again. So that's why you have this number 27 out of 93. So there were 93 plain Jane versions done, and this is number 27 of those 93 that were made. There will be X number of the Midnight, X number of the OD Green, so on and so forth through these 7 variations. Now, you're also going to be getting the bragging rights of having a knife that pretty much the whole community knows about. Whether they want one or not, everybody at least knows about the Strix. So like I said, I'm very late to the game here, but at least I finally get the opportunity. So yeah, you get some bragging rights. Hey, I've got a Strix. Yeah, that's what it is. I got a Strix. And of course, the guys that have a custom Strix will, have bragging rights above and beyond yours, if that's the sort of thing that you care about. And that shouldn't be the only reason why you're buying a knife. You should be buying the knife because you like the knife and it does what you want it to do and it's aesthetically pleasing and it fits within your budget. And all of these other things, not, hey, will I be cool finally if I have this knife? The Sebenza guys and the Strider guys already went through that, 10, 15 years ago. So you shouldn't even be concerned about that shit nowadays. You buy what you like and that's it. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. But you will be just a little bit cooler in my book if you have a Strix in your collection. Now, Greg is going to be doing drops himself, but there will be some dealers like Blade HQ, Cedarburg Emporium, and Sharp OKC that will be selling them as well. Now, I don't have a drop date, unfortunately. The last message I had with Greg, he said he would let me know when he decides on what the drop date will be. And I hope that hasn't passed already because I've had this knife for over a week, I think about 2 weeks. I'm kind of worried about that, so that might be a possibility. I hope I didn't miss it because I want y'all to be able to get one, and I'll be honest, I want one for myself. Flat out, I do. I like this knife a hell of a lot after playing with it for a while. I think I want the Midnight version, the V1 Midnight. It's all blacked out with the carbon fiber inlay. It's very slick, very cool. But I also like this plain Jane stonewashed version as well. So you've got the bead blasted frame on here. Let me see if I can get you a little bit of a close-up here. So you've got this bead blasted titanium frame. You've got the black washed titanium pocket clip, matching black hardware. You have a black pivot collar around the bead blasted and stonewashed titanium pivot. And I should mention, yes, this is bead blasted and stone washed for the frame. I only said bead blasted before. Then you've got the cool milled pattern going on up here at the spine side of the frame. The blade finish is going to be belt satin on this beautifully hollow ground Magna Cut blade with the horizontal satin. Could be hand rubbed. I don't know if it's truly done by hand, so I always hesitate to say hand rubbed satin flats if I don't know for certain that they were done by hand, but I know Bestech has done that, and since they're the OEM on this, it is certainly a possibility. Really solid lockup on this thing too. I really hate this saying, and I had resigned myself to not say it again over the past 10 years, but it locks up like a bank vault. I mean, you hear this thud, and it just doesn't move. Very, very solid lockup. You do have a hardened steel insert on that lock bar as well. A good amount of jimping on the spine of the blade. I should say the tang of the blade, because that really is an exposed tang. And that, by the way, is why it's jimped, because this is also a front flipper. As much as I despise front flippers, this one actually flips really, really nicely. It's snappy, it's fast, it's got the perfect detent. So if somebody like me who does not like front flippers and is not practiced in using front flippers can get a good flip out of it, you know that the action was tuned properly for that. I do prefer reverse flicking it. You can slow roll it if you want with your thumb. You can thumb flick it as well. So you've got a lot of different options here for flipping this open. Ooh, that sent chills down my spine. I really dig this. And I think one of the things I like about it the most is the way it feels in the hand. Not so much the ergonomics, because this is not the most ergo-friendly knife I've handled in recent memory. It's not bad, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't have a particular flow to it where when I put it in my hand, I go, wow, this feels like it was made for me. That's not what I mean. I mean, it has this heft to it, this feeling of solidity. It feels like I'm holding a much more substantial knife than what this really is. I mean, it just feels like this overbuilt, crazy cinder block in my hand. But it's, so like, say, like more like a Medford or something, just with more of an understanding of human anatomy. It fits better in the hand than your typical Medford does and feels a little bit better. And that's not a slight against Medford in any way. It's just there's always a comparison when you're talking about overbuilt knives. One of the biggest names that pops up in people's heads is Medford knives. And a lot of people feel that Medfords just aren't designed for the human hand, that they're not very comfortable or very ergonomic. And this is not that. I'm just making it clear because I don't want you to think that that's the category I'm putting it in. Absolutely not. It actually fits well in the hand. It's just not a crazy daydream of a knife in your hand. You don't hold it and go, holy crap! But you do feel how substantial it is. It feels like a solid working knife. And that's great, because if you're not a pocket jewelry collector or a Safe Queen collector, and you do carry your knives and do want to use your knives, you're going to seriously enjoy this knife. This is a performance knife. It is a cutter. It is made for that, at least in my particular opinion. Now, let's get into the specs very quickly here so that you understand exactly what it is that you're looking at. So you're looking at a titanium frame lock, of course. Overall length is 8.2 inches with a 3.4 inch blade. Now, under 3.5 inches, just barely under 3.5 inches, you think that might sound small. It does not look or feel small. It actually seems a little bigger than that 3.4 inches. I would have figured 3.6. I thought it was just a hair over 3.5 inches, but it's not. Of course, as men, we all exaggerate about the size anyway. 3.4 inch blade is a Magna Cut. It is set up at 61 to 63 Rockwell hardness. It is a hollow ground modified Wharncliffe with a very exaggerated harpoon. Your thickness is 150 thousandths of an inch thick. All the titanium is 6Al4V titanium. That's your frame, your show pivot, your pivot collar, your backspacer, your pocket clip. And by the way, that backspacer is a geared backspacer, so it has jimping. It's exposed from the frame to give you a lanyard hole as well. I like the look and the feel of that. And you've got ceramic bearings, ceramic detent, the works. You've got a premium production knife here for around $350. Now, there is a Damasteel version that's going to be available as well, and I'm sure that one's going to be well over $650. I don't know for certain, but I would have to expect that. Generally, a Damasteel upgrade is worth a good $300 on its own just for the material. So, yeah, is it cheap? No. This is not a cheap and inexpensive or even affordable knife by many people's standards. You're looking at a premium price production knife, and I feel that you're getting a premium product. It feels, as I mentioned before, very, very solid, very substantial, very much like a knife that I would want to go out and actually do work with. Light chopping, cutting, slicing, opening packages, and then cutting down the cardboard afterwards, not having to grab something else like a utility knife to cut down the cardboard for recycling. This is kind of a one-stop shop, a knife that kind of does it all. And that's exactly what a lot of people are shopping for right now. A lot of people are tired of having their everyday carry kind of petite, delicate knife and having to reach for something else when they have an actual real cutting task at hand. They want that knife that's comfortable and easy to carry on an everyday basis, and then they also want that same knife to be able to do hardcore cutting tasks that you would put up for a folding knife. I don't want to confuse it with the really hardcore shit that you're going to do with a fixed blade. That's a different category. But this, I feel, is one of those knives that's suited for pretty much everything. And again, as much as I do not like front flippers, it front flips very, very well. But I will say this, if I'm going to knock it for anything, I don't like having that front flipper tang on any design. It's not just this knife. I've picked this apart before on a lot of knives. It's just a look that I don't like. It's very disruptive to the overall flow of the knife design. And it's funny because if you go back a decade or a little bit more, when standard flippers were becoming a very, very, very popular item, you would hear a lot of knife makers say, I didn't want to do a flipper version on this knife because I feel that when the knife is closed, the flipper tab detracts away from the streamlined look of my design. And I never really got that because I always looked past the flipper tab as just kind of being this utilitarian thing. It's like looking at the steering wheel of a car and going, oh, that round steering wheel detracts away from the beauty of the overall design of the interior. Well, no, it's something that is just there. It's part of the function of the car, so you kind of look past it unless it's something really, really weird like a Porsche 968 steering wheel or something. So I never really got that, but now I know what they were saying. Because when I see an exposed tang for front flipper on almost any knife, I look at it and go, why did they have to do that? Or why couldn't they have offered a version without that? That's just a manual opener or a manual opener with a standard flipper tab. Especially nowadays because we can make such abbreviated flipper tabs that are almost completely hidden. And some that are completely hidden, like the GTC spring-loaded flipper tab, the SLT, and so many other great ones, the Lee Williams Kickstop. Well, a Kickstop is exposed when it's closed, just not when it's open. But there are ways that you can almost hide away the flipper tab or completely hide away a flipper tab. And that's just, I don't think that's ever going to happen on a front flipper. That's just kind of the way it is. But I could still look past that and go, I really, really like this knife. So it's not a deal breaker for me. It's just I have a preference. So my preference would be to not have that. But not enough of a preference that I would go, no, I am never, ever, ever going to own that. I have too many animals in this house. Sorry, guys. I have animal fur just kind of floating in frame. Anyway, that's all I really had to say about this. If you're looking for something that has a really unique look to it, is super sharp, I love that hollow grind, and feels like it can cut through a car door, then this is going to be one of the knives you're going to want to pick up this year for sure. And if I did not get this out in time before the drop, I apologize. Look for these on the secondary market. See if there's anybody in any of the Facebook knife groups that are selling theirs, and grab it. If it's anywhere near the $350 that these were selling for, then I would say you really should try to get one of these into your collection. And I'm going to do a little bit of crying right now as I put this back in the box to send it back to Greg. Anyway, I think it's super cool. And those of you that already have a Strix from the first run, you know what I'm talking about. Greg did say that he feels the action is a little tiny bit better on the new run than the first run. So even you'll be in for a surprise. If you have an original run and you get the second one, it might be just that little tiny bit better to make you even happier. But those of you that have one, sound off down below and let people know, hey, I'm not insane. I'm seeing a really great knife in front of me for a lot of good reasons. And if you can help validate that with your comments as an owner below, please do so. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the next video.